It's been a lot of fun working with you the last 14 weeks. And you might remember in our first meeting, we went through our list of what we're going to do and what we're each obliged to do. And,
Right.
and we had a chance then to talk about some of your goals. And we also talked about how we use this, the 14 weeks in, we would stop and take stock of how you're doing. So.
I think they've gone pretty well, but I did see that I was struggling in some areas. Like I still haven't met those goals or, been able to really, I guess, work up how to go beyond to be able to meet the expectations.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think I want to kind of discuss those areas.
Okay.
I
So
think
what are some of those?
with just kind of my relationship with clients and trying to figure out what some of their patterns are in terms of, and then how to bring some of their interrelational patterns into the session.
Okay.
So yeah, just kind of focusing in on some of those things more related to me being more observant of the client.
Okay. Okay. So let's come back to that more specifically. So you filled out the evaluation form ahead of time. That I gave you a number of areas where I thought you exceeded expectations, and
I
you
think
didn't do any of that.
Yeah, because I think I'm still learning, so I don't feel like I'm exceeding any of the expectations. I think I'm kind of where I need to be in most areas, except for the areas that I do feel that I'm struggling in.
Okay.
So.
Okay, yeah, because so I'm looking at this. I thought you did better than expected with setting goals and making progress toward those goals.
Okay.
Being able to identify interpersonal patterns, which interestingly, you just said that that's one of your areas of difficulty.
Yeah.
So, but maybe we ought to talk about that a little bit. So tell me how you're seeing it as an area you should work on.
Well, there's this one particular client, I don't know if you remember the conversation, how I was struggling kind of, first of all, building rapport with her and then kind of figuring out like what her needs were. She wasn't giving me a lot of information on what to work with. So I was really struggling on how to address, I guess, and how to more so build the rapport with her and address the issues that were on the actual referral. Okay. Because during the session, she wasn't really expressing herself or stating anything, and so that was really a struggle for me. And so I'm thinking that maybe it's my personality. I'm not sure if it's like more of a personality conflict or if it's I'm not just reading her right, or if I just need to kind of pull back a little bit and not expect so much of her.
Okay, yeah, and I do remember the client, and I thought you had. Actually, I thought you had pretty good connection with her, but what I'm hearing now is that you're having trouble reading how your relationship with her was mapping to stuff going on in the rest of her world.
Yeah.
And so that, that does sound like an area to continue to work on. So let's make a note of that.
Okay.
And, so we didn't have a chance to do a lot of videotaping this term, but
yeah.
I think that's really important. So maybe as we start our next 14 weeks together, that we should make a point of really looking at videos and make that one of our primary goals.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the areas I was a little harder on you than you were. On developing a theoretical orientation and functioning. So I remember we had you come up, make a list of the things that of your model and what was consistent with your model,
Right.
and remind me what those were.
So I'm going from the theoretical model I'm going from is the CBT, the cognitive behavioral theory. Because one of the things that I had put on my list was that I would always have an agenda and I would present that to the client. So that was one of the main things.
Yeah.
And then also kind of looking at, how they thought about certain situations and events that they were presenting, and then how that affected their behavior and their thinking.
I'm remembering now. So my impression was that you do think CBT-like. I thought that, and I thought you had some of the basics of it, just kind of recognizing the thoughts and so on. I thought some of your techniques weren't quite to the CBT level, and so I'm wondering if that's something we should be working on next term too.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea, because I think that I'm not really focused necessarily on the CBT anymore. Like I kind of sidewind toward the end of the semester towards other theories. So
and you know my stance, which is I don't care what model you have, but once you declare it, it's important to work from it.
Yeah.
And so it does sound like things drifted a little bit for you, and so that's another thing we should pay attention to in our next session, next work together.
Okay.
Making sure you're consistent with your model.
Okay.
Okay. So what else stood out for you as you looked at this?
I noticed that you marked me on the gender issues, as you marked me as meet expectations, and I marked as not applicable.
Okay.
Because I really haven't covered, like I haven't had a client that brings any gender issues necessarily to the sessions. I'm aware of the gender issues, I'm aware of how to deal with them, but I haven't had to, I guess, use any of those gender issues in a session.
When you say gender issues, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking
So
like,
they were paying attention to different things.
I'm thinking like when they come in and they have either issues where they're not sure what gender their orientation is.
So you're thinking like sexual orientation.
Right.
I was thinking more about gender as affects how they think of themselves, and does a young girl think of herself as possibly being a scientist? Or those kinds of things.
Okay.
So I thought you did fine in responding to that.
Okay.
But I agree, we didn't have a chance to work with the kind of client.
So maybe the wording on the form is kind of off.
Yeah.
Here, you marked me below. I'm not sure why. And then, yes, the DSM.
Yeah, the DSM, below expectations. But I think that was just, I think you've worked with a very limited kind of clientele. So it's just you haven't had a chance to really learn as much about the DSM because of the kind of clients you're seeing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's something that I think will take care of itself as you get a chance to work with a broader range of clients than you've had this last few months.
Okay. Yeah, I marked myself down, I think more so not because of the clientele, but because I know I struggle trying to figure out what exactly the diagnosis is for the symptoms that they're coming in with.
Okay. All right, so that's something else we should pay a little bit more of attention to.
Okay.
Another one that, again, overall, I think you're just meeting expectations and I think even exceeding it in a lot of areas. But one that I thought that might be helpful if you work more on would be under transference, because I think that's just one of those things that emerges in all counseling. So it's always there to some degree. I thought there were a couple of times when some things came up that you weren't quite attuned to for example, that last case you brought in, I remember being a little bit overly critical of the client, and it looked like something was going on inside you that got caught up in that. As we talked about it, we didn't quite get resolution on that. So that was one of those signals that maybe that's something we should focus on.
Okay, that sounds good because I do remember when we were looking at, or when I was looking at the video again before I presented in class that yeah, I realized and I tried to kind of pinpoint on what you had said, but I don't think I could quite, figure it out what you were trying to have me observe in the video and what you noticed. So that, I think that would be an area, I guess, that would be helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be helpful to start wrapping this up then. And so what's your takeaway in terms of what we do next? What's your summary of what we talked about today and where we should be working next?
Well, from my perspective, that I grade myself harder, that I know that I still, from my opinion, there's areas that I need to work on. But from your viewpoint, I've exceeded some areas. So I'll continue, I guess, to work on those areas, even though you feel I've exceeded. But there are definite areas that I need to work on. And then maybe we can go back and discuss some of the areas that maybe were not so clear, like the gender issues or those kinds of things.
That. So, in your own words, what should we be working on what should we focus on as we start our next round of work?
So, definitely looking more, focusing on my theoretical orientation, looking, I guess, a little bit more too as to diagnoses based on the symptoms that clients are presenting. And then definitely on the one that you said about identifying and managing my own countertransference with clients.
Okay, good. Before we wrap up this part, so what feedback do you have for me? So, because we've been talking about you, and your works, but we're also taking stock of how you and I've worked together.
Well, I'd like to, I guess, have you tell me and pinpoint more, I guess, sooner in the process and not wait until the end. Those areas where you feel that I need to work on and be like more immediate as to waiting, towards the end. And I know we've talked about some of those things, but again, I know that we had a different interpretation of the gender issues. So definitely maybe talking about the areas that we're both addressing in terms of how I'm being evaluated, so that we are both clear and I can understand where you're coming from, and then I can understand better how to evaluate myself.
Okay, this shouldn't be the time in which you're surprised by things.
Right.
So I thought we talked about these things, but I'm hearing that I could have been clearer.
Right.
Okay, is there anything else that I should know about that would help us work better together?
No, I think I just need to do more videos and bring them into session, into the supervisory session. So yeah, I'll definitely do that.
All right, and I've really appreciated your willingness to review your work and take the feedback. So
thank you, because I know I'm still learning, so it's very helpful, and it's only going to help me grow.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.